Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video, thankfully for the last time this season, or maybe I should say mercifully, as the season that looked promising after dragging us through the muck for this couple of months has really just fell away and became what it usually does, an injury-ridden, sore, painful, stressful mess. But I think you've got to give Rangers credit today, ladies and gentlemen, because even a game of football every Rangers fan on this planet went into with low expectations to zero expectations in terms of winning this game, performing at any level, given what we're missing and given what we've got on the part. The fact that they went out there and found a new way to rip our own arses out, I just can't put any words. Like, genuinely, no one really saw that level of effort and maybe being dominant, especially in terms of the second half on the cards, given where we are as a team. The double-digit injuries. We've got over 11 first-team injuries to the squad, which is crazy to even say out loud. And then we went ahead and lost another two the day, you know what I mean, in each half. Troops. This is where we are as a football club, yet still with those low expectations this team fought, they battled, and I'd argue they actually showed the heart we've been wanting to see in the last couple of Old Firms. So I do find myself in this very weird situation because almost all week I'd planned really what I was going to say. Well, if it goes wrong, I'll know what I'm going to say because it's the same old, weak, limp, can't do this, can't do that. But you can't really say that today, ladies and gentlemen. When you consider the game, we had our third and fourth choice centre back. Well, technically Leon King was supposed to be fourth choice. Balogun was only brought in as emergency. So you're talking about third and fifth choice centre back. We had a right back at right wing. We had a centre mid pairing versus Celtic, the area of the park that wins. Old Firm partnering each other for only their fourth time in a Rangers shirt, that being Raskin and Diamande. You had a striker that's allergic to scoring goals being shoved out on the left hand side because he can't lead the line in terms of Fabio Silva. And we've got Mr. Decisive, Mr. Annoying, Mr. Lovable Dessers hobbling off injured after 45 minutes, and on comes a winger that's been injured 4 of the last 5 months, having to play the last 45 minutes leading the line out of position. I mean, when you say it like that versus a Celtic squad that they're full strength, fully confidence, having just bagged another league title, given how dominant they've been over the last little while, especially in the Old Firms, it really shouldn't have been as close as it was. But again, maybe it's a credit to the Rangers side again for finding a new way to break our hearts, because they did battle, they did fight, but again, they found another way to lose a game. But I'm not going to sit here and be overly critical and moan and complain the same way I've done over the last couple of Old Firms, because the effort was at least there. People will maybe talk about the quality of the final and say it was a poor game for both sides, poor this, poor that, but does anyone actually watch football? You just read Twitter and do stats. So like every cup final for the most part is a poor game, because the semi-finals are always the best, no matter what competition, no matter what this, because it's both teams giving absolute everything to make sure they're in the actual final, and then the final comes around and then it's just both teams making sure that they don't lose the final. So they're always a wee bit cagier, they're always a wee bit uglier. The real difference maker in terms of that, and the one that sort of breaks that mould, was the most recent World Cup final, which was one of the best games I've ever seen. But that's an anomaly, ladies and gentlemen. Most cup finals are like this, and I think you saw that for both sides. There was a lot of poor quality, a lot of poor crosses, a lot of people falling up and down the place, and I feel like as the game got nervier and it got about fight and spirit, you actually saw the Rangers team showing a wee bit of sand that I've not seen all season long. Now, I'm no fond for it, you know what I mean? Like, can I just say that right now? I'm giving them praise for what they've gave in the game, but I'm no fond for it. Clear the decks, get actual rid of them. That's maybe the summary of this team. They can give you that game, but did they win you the actual game? No, they're never as harsh as it is. They can show you moments and you think, oh, what happens if this had happened, or if this had happened, or if this has happened, and then that's how they get another year's contract. That's why they're here for another 2 years. That's why they survive another 3 managers, and in a couple of years time we're back in the same position. Now we need winners, and I feel like that game was just crying out for somebody in a blue shirt to show that's what they are. Or if we had a couple more guys up to that level, a couple guys that were able to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and go and win it and be the difference maker, we're smiling, we're winning this game and we're winning this trophy. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we just never had enough people with enough quality to get us over the actual edge. And saying that, you know what we need to talk about now, because I'd be lying to you and being denying and everything like that regarding the referee performance. And You know me, I call it as I say. Again, I'm never always right about things. I never pretend to be. I just tell you my opinions on it, whether I'm right or wrong. When I criticise referees when we win, I criticise referees when I lose. I criticise them all the time, but you get the seals online like this that only watch the losses and the clip it and say he's only moaning about rest. But that shows their lack of intelligence rather than anything else, because I just hate all the referees in Scotland. I just didn't. They're getting. I wouldn't call out and say it's blatant cheating or anything. I know a lot of people's going to be saying that in the comment section below. I just think they're pishing their bottle goals and they're too scared to make the decisive decision in terms of one way. That's the way it seems to go, and they always got a mistake in them. And unfortunately for us, ladies and gentlemen, the big mistake again came for the referee as there's yet another goal versus Celtic Var'D. Man, I am sick to death. I really, really am. It's getting to the stage now. They say like VAR's ruined the game and people score and then they wait till it's officially given. The players aren't celebrating because they don't know down south and everything like that. People say that, but it's got to the stage now. Every time we score a goal versus Celtic, I'm like, are they going to give it? Because that's where we are. Was it 4 or 5 goals now? Granted, some of them should have been chopped off, and I'm not saying all of them were wrongly chopped off now, but some of them for me were very light. I mean, I'm thinking of the Morelos one at the back post versus Johnson. There's been a couple there I've been sitting saying, what is all that about? Really, really interesting decisions. And maybe it is my bias talking here, ladies and gentlemen, but I just think that's a massive call to make in a cup final. Now, I know he has got 2 hands on the actual back, and if you go back to something I said in one of the most recent videos where I was getting the opposite side of that, I says there was a shove on Dessers in the back of the line, but the referees never gave it, and VAR hasn't given it. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, what was the reason given? Follow me, Alice, as we go down the rabbit hole. Because the player wasn't getting to the ball. That's what I was told. That's what we were told. That's why Dessers never got the penalties. And then in a cup final where Joe Hart is flapping like he's done at every corner that's actually came out, they can look at that despite him not getting anywhere near it and chop the goal off. But they told us last week or the week before that if you're not getting to the ball, it doesn't matter if there's a foul. Not every contact's a foul. Remember that? Well, I do, because I heard it several times when the decisions and that were actually getting made. So I just feel a wee bit bitter about this, and if I'm being brutally honest, the fact that again, not only is Raskin also being fouled at the actual incident, as Greg Taylor's clearly got his hands all around them. There's 2 fouls in there and only 1 is actually given, so I think you have to look at that and start to say, well, wait a minute, how far do we actually pull this back? And then that becomes the argument about how much VAR is sucking the life out of the game, because I'm not sitting saying if we score that goal we're definitely winning the game, because Celtic then need to go for it and maybe put us a wee bit more under threat. You never know what the game's going to be but for me, that goal should have stood, in my personal opinion. Truly, that's just how I feel, especially considering the fact the same referee looked at this incident and says this wasn't a foul. So he doesn't think that is a foul. And he went to Clement and he backed up. You all saw it in the footage. He went right over to Clement and saying it's a shove, but it's no an actual foul. You all seen it, ladies and gentlemen. He went and told Clement off if he keeps yapping, he'll be sent up to the stand because the egos of the referee. So he looks at that and doesn't deem that worthy of a foul. But that yin is after 3 seconds looking at it and a monitor not checking what's actually happening with Raskin and the pull and the shove that Raskin also gets. It's just weird, it's messy, but it's yet another incident and another game I've got to sit here and talk about duffers of refs that I don't think are good enough for a game of this magnitude that holds this league back and keeps us back, and it just drives us absolutely mental, ladies and gentlemen, because it's the same referee that not only thought the push wasn't a push, but that push was a push, but he also thinks this perfectly timed challenge by Sterling is worthy of a yellow card. He's booked Sterling for that. Like, honestly, now, people might jump in and say, well, what about the penalty? Ben Davies, as Kyogo flicked the header on and it's hit Ben Davies' arm, and it is something we've looked at and talked about a lot on the channel, especially if you watch this content. If you see us, we've discussed this quite a lot, because, again, my understanding the rule is if it hits the player in front of them and they're a certain amount of distance close to that it's not giving us a penalty kick. Yet I went over to Benfica, or Lisbon I should say, for the Benfica match, and I watched a guy header the ball into the arm of John Souttar and a penalty being given, and 3 days later comes out and says actually that foul shouldn't have been given, that penalty shouldn't have been given. But then I'm sitting saying, what is actually going on? And it's just a mess. This is what it's bringing, ladies and gentlemen. There is just so much mess, and when you give these idiots the tools that people have now given them, you're just getting mere mess. VAR's not tidied up in, and it's not been a betterment of the game. It's just sucking the life out of it and highlighting mere glaring issues and that's the officiating. So I don't know if the goal should have been chopped off. I don't know if the Ben Davies one should have been a penalty. For me, it shouldn't be given the rules, but considering what they've done against Suter, I've seen them given, but then apologise 3 days later. That doesn't matter to anybody because the penalty was gone and the goal was given, or the goal happened for the penalty. So everything's just a mess regarding that, ladies and gentlemen. But for me, I'm a little bit bitter regarding the referee's performance. I thought Walsh was absolutely dreadful in this game of football. The constant mistakes that he actually made in the game, and it's not a surprise. It's just who he is and who a lot the officials are. But again, we'll go through each incident as it actually happens regarding the game recap. But before we speak about anything else, I do want to talk about Phil Clement, because I've been very critical of Clement's his approach and tactics and styles versus Celtic so far this season. I like him as a manager, but I feel like you can like somebody but also give an honest criticism, and I felt it's not been good enough in the last Old Firms. I thought it's been far too negative. I thought it's been bending over for the sake of it, not meeting them in the line. But where I have been critical, I've seen so much stuff now said about Clement because he's lost this game, he should get sacked, he should get that, and people narrowing in on some of the subs. But where I've been critical, can he be the days? I felt like, and maybe I'm just completely wrong, you can let me know in the comments section below, I feel like he got it absolutely spot on the day. I thought his tactics were right, I thought the starting 11 was right, I thought the way he approached the game was right. Clement can't influence a ball getting played to Dessers inside the box, that he shoots, fluffs it and kicks it away that way. The formation breakdown, giving Cantwell space to put the ball in the mixer when we've got an overload at the back that Cantwell sends for a pie. That's no on Clement. Raskin bursting in 82nd minute, doing, playing in Sima, just combined them there, playing in Sima, who scuffs a shot softly back to the actual goalkeeper. That's no on Clement. For me, he put them in a position to go ahead and win a game with the third and fifth choice centre-back. A midfield that's not played with each other. Right backs at right wing because there's nobody else. And again, having to rely after losing your main striker on a winger that's been injured of the 5 of the last 6 months. I thought he actually done alright the day, truthfully. I really, really did. It just highlights the other issue at this club. There's players just not good enough. And that's what I take away for this. They can give you what they can give you. They can turn up on a day. They can turn up 1 out of every 5 and show you what they've nearly got, but nearly isn't good enough for this football club. So thank you for your service. You're maybe unlucky the day with referee decisions, but it's time to part ways with a lot of them and bring in guys and winners to this team to get us back finding ways to win games instead of always been the hard luck story. But before I actually get into the game recap, another thing or two, because I know a lot of people won't stay for the full video, but they want to talk about the Scott Wright substitution. They want to criticise Clement for his substitutions. But again, and maybe I'm just defending him where I've actually been critical in the past, where I feel like he'd done the best of what he had available, not only with what was missing, but he had to go to the bench. And I've not been the biggest fan of Fabio Silva, but that boy ran his arse into the ground the day. He could barely move at that point, needed to actually sub. Cantwell was knackered as well. He looked done, and then he started to get booked, and then it started, well, he never got booked till he was walking off the park, but it started to get nippy, and you just never know we actually Cantwell once it gets to that level. He's starting to get leggy, he's starting to get involved with it. It could have ended up going wrong. For me, he was needing to be a sub, but what more could Clement have actually done? If players need to be subbed, if they need to be rotated out, he's got to go to the bench. He can't play Lunny on the wing, or Jacko on the wing, or a third goalie on the wing. He's got to go with what he's actually given. You can only piss with the cock you've got, and that's what he went ahead and done. And did it work? No, but it's no surprise. It's the likes of Scott Wright, man. They're no good enough, but that's not a surprise. Give him the summer, let him get ready the nonsense and see what he can actually bring in. And that's how I feel regarding that as well. He had to go to the bench. I imagine if Dessers doesn't get injured, who's never been injured so far in a Rangers shirt, that sub's no maybe happening. It's probably Sima that's coming on for Scott Wright. That's probably the natural substitution. But again, we had 2 more fresh injuries in this game, an injury in each half. He's having to spin plates here that should never be spun. So hopefully I'm not sounding like a Clement fanboy, but if you watch the Old Firm losses, I've been critical of his subs and his subs and his approach, I should say. But for the day, I'm not in there the day, ladies. I just can't be there. Again, he only could do what he could do, and he put the team in the best position to win. They just never had enough quality to go ahead and do it. But I guess it's time to translate into the game recap then, shall we? Because a lot of this will come under cover and we can start looking at it. Because I'll be honest, the first minute in this game, there was a long ball that Tavernier gets beat by as he tries to slide in too late to Idah. Idah runs by him. Really? 1 minute into the game again? Can we not just... Wake up, Tav! Take a step back, son. You didn't need to be inside. You're 40 years old, or whatever you are now. The boy's a whippet. Just take a step back and go with your man. Just do this. Just do that. Just look for him. Because it's embarrassing. Every time he comes in, he misses on, but thankfully Balogun ends up bailing Tavernier out first minute of the game with a brilliant slide challenge on my idah, and I'm thinking, oh no, here we go. But it's got to be said, we did settle pretty well in the game of football. I thought Diamandi was a major part of that as well, especially on the ball. Some of the work that he'd done, drag backs, pulling into space, beating the Celtic players, driving us forward, and I thought we Raskin, the partnership that I've been wanting to see for a little while in terms of Raskin and Diamandi, it's the partnership I begged for at Parkhead. I said, do not put Lunny on that park. And again, I'm not saying that I called her up, but he never has a good game. Versus, it just never does. You know what I mean? How many times do we need to make the same mistake? And I thought Raskin's pace really shown what's been lacking when Lunny does start these games, because Matt O'Reilly, who's arguably, if not the player of the season in terms of individual outfielders this year, the stats and that have been statistic, he was absolutely nullified. This guy has hunted us and hurt us the last couple old firms, but Raskin's pace, movement and ability to track a man instead of just letting him run by him just nullified them, and that's no something I'm used to seeing at all. So I give credit to the midfield, especially Diamandi and Raskin. I thought they were really good and they gave us a base to try and do son, but you could see the weaknesses, you could see the holes. Every time we got the ball forward, ladies and gentlemen, it was completely breaking down. We've got a right back at right wing, we've got a striker that can't score goals at left wing, and we've got a striker that again splits the fan base down the middle. There's just nothing there. There's passes in behind, they're arguing with each other, there's looking down, everything's falling apart and coming back. But shout out to both Ben Davies and Leon Balogun. No played too many games with each other, but I thought they were really solid, especially Ben Davies, who was needed a couple times in the opening 15 minutes. One of them where he cuts out a ball beautifully, another one with a slide challenge on Forrest on the right hand side. He's really solid in today's game and probably deserved a league winners medal, if I'm being honest with you, or a Scottish Cup medal I should say, given his performance. And it just shows you what he's actually capable of when he doesn't need to sit and babysit Barisic at the left back and have the up and downs at John Souttar or the up and downs at Goldson. All he needed was somebody solid, no great, no bad, solid right next to him. And I thought Ben Davies was really good. But aye, that was the 7th minute where Balogun makes a massive tackle on Idah again after Tavernier gets beat in behind him, and then Ben Davies, as we mentioned, on that great slide on James Forrest. Then we had a couple set pieces, them dropping in, they're looking very dangerous. They just needed somebody being there, but we've just not got natural instincts to really go and get goals, both for centre halves and everyone else. They just can't sniff out that chance. They just can't get there. I mean, Diamandi's first one rolled right to the back post and away for anybody, but Big Dessers is actually more involved and not even looking at the ball. He's just wrestling with Johnson. If he's actually goes, he's probably getting a tap in, but again, just not good enough. Speaking of not good enough, the 17th minute comes as Sterling does really well on the right hand side, just pushes Idah out the way, showing power and pace and some defensive instincts. Idah was like, what? I can actually get tackled down this right hand side. Tavernier could never. Sterling gets the ball, plays into Cantwell. Cantwell ends up switching it to Silva, where I'd consider it was a bad pass, if I'm honest. I thought it was poor, but Silva does actually really well to control it. Spins away for, I think, Callum McGregor, runs into the box, tries to open the body up. Terry on restyle, trying to curl it in the bottom right, but doesn't get anywhere near it. And it's a soft, comfortable save for Joe Hart. And then Celtic had a major opportunity as well as they curl the ball with Greg Taylor to the back post. Matt O'Reilly does well to beat Ridvan Yilmaz to idah. How are we allowing that, Rangers? But anyway, he does it down. Hatai hits it on a half volley, but shout out Ben Davies, because I think this has gone in. I don't think Butland's getting anywhere near this, but Ben Davies, big boy header, he blocked that, and I'd consider that as good as an actual goal line clearance. I think that's gone into the back of net, and it's just as important, but it'll be forgot about now. And that's a shame. But Wade's performance will probably be remembered by the lazy clickbait people that didn't actually watch football. They just check the stats and just check things on Twitter as a possible handball call. It's another Rangers game with another Rangers centre half handling it or getting the ball hit off his hand versus Celtic. Can we stop doing it, lads? The stress level is finishing me. But anyway, the cross comes in, I think it's Greg Taylor again actually, or is it Maeda? I can't really remember. So it comes from the left hand side of Celtic. Kyogo tries to head it on, just try and flick it on, and it hits off the hand of Ben Davies. But again, it's one of the ends where it happened versus John Suter at Benfica, and then 3 days later they came out and said, that was a mistake. It's one of these ones I think it's just down to the VAR official at the time, and if it was given, again, I'd huff and puff, but understand it as I've seen it given before, but then I'd read the rules and be confused. So I don't know, it's a weird one, ladies and gentlemen, but it's no given, so we maybe survive that potential scare and nearly have our moment. And it's such an interesting moment to look at because it changes the game so much, and it just adds another branch into the butterfly effect. As the ball goes down to the right hand side, Sterling again does very well, gets it to Diomande spins away for his man, plays it down to Cantwell then crosses it to Dessers, brilliant first touch, has a shot that's brilliantly blocked by Carter Vickers, and then there's a kind of 50-50. Dessers goes for it, Carter Vickers goes for it. It's a great sliding challenge. Vickers does get the ball, then get the man, but it's never a penalty for me, ladies and gentlemen. It's just nonsense. He gets the ball first, you know what I mean? Football's a contact sport, or it used to be when I was growing up, and it used to be when I loved watching this game. I don't know what they're turning into it these days, but it's no a penalty for Rangers here. He gets the ball first, and then the follow through he does touch Dessers, but where it isn't a penalty, it does clearly affect Dessers for the rest of the first half, as he's struggling, he's limping, he's sore, and he can't get really involved in the rest of the game as he's clearly hurt. And that ends up being the moment that sees the big man subbed off, as there's a couple beeps. But where the cars have finally stopped beeping outside, you then have Todd Cantwell getting a bit of a knock from Hatate, started getting a little bit spicy, nice wee drag back, ends up getting being sair. I'm seeing Kieran Dowell warm up, I'm like, oh, sugar and spice and everything, not nice. This could really be bad. And that was a Powerpuff Girls reference. You're welcome for that, but you didn't see that incoming. But anyway, he's able to get back up. You're thinking, right, I can release, and then you're seeing the moment with Sterling again. We've already shown it. It's just ridiculous. Now, I thought at the time that it was inside the box, and I'm like, oh my god, we're going to get a penalty here. Oh my god, we're going to get a penalty, and a cup final. But it's not a penalty. It's fouled outside. But it's just worrying that a referee can look at that unchallenged, see every bit of that, and doesn't think that's worth a foul. Like, I don't know what to say to anybody, man. It's blatant, it's obvious, but the referees are just pish. But aye, that was truly the end of the first half after a couple wee crosses from Tavernier in terms of a corners that was well saved or palmed over or anything like that by Joe Hart. But again, he never looked comfortable with any balls coming in, so I was like, there's a real option to get there if we just had more aerial threat. Sicky actually saying that. But into the second half, Dessers obviously goes off the park. We've lost another player. It's yet another 45 minutes in which we've been or lost a player to injury. We all talk about expected goals, expected assists, key pass, key. What's our injury per 90? Can somebody work that out? Because it must be absolutely ridiculous. It must be the worst in Europe. Clearly, I've never seen anything like it. In fact, what I can think of off my own brain just firing this first time is the last 4 halves that we have played, we've lost at least one player to injury out of the last 4 halves. That's incredible. We're not even talking about the second half when Sterling limps off the back end up, because that's 5 halves in a row. It's embarrassing, but that's where we are as a football club now. Scales also gets away with one in the 58th minute where he just bundles Sima from behind after Cantwell picks the ball up, runs really well at the defence, running. Scales just shoves Sima down off the ball. The referee looks at it, isn't he interested, and we end up winning a corner from that. And what's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is that corner is the corner we and go and scoring. Now listen to me for a few seconds. I've just said and shown already in today's video, he's no interested in pushes, he's no giving pushes, it's a physical game, it's an old firm. He's just watched Scales shove Sima again for the actual corner. Go back and watch the match. He's just seen it happen again. He's no interested in it. And from that corner, Tavernier whips it in to the money. It goes to the back post. It hits the knee of Sima. It then hits the hand of Johnson. Probably a bit of irony in terms of that. And you're thinking, oh my god, it's storyline. He handballed it at Parkhead and got away with it. Or was it at Ibrox that he got away with it? Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. It all makes sense. Celebrating, and then there's VAR. And you know what happens when there's VAR versus Celtic? You're no getting the goal, no matter what. It's either a screamer or a penalty. Everything else in between, they'll find something, even if they have to crawl back 45 seconds like they did the last time. But again, I'm not want to keep going through this, but I know it's a major talking point in the game. My question would be, if that's a foul and that's a penalty, why, then looking at the stuff that happens with Raskin getting pulled, and then why were Dessers not getting penalties in his last 2 games, both versus Dundee and both versus Hearts, if he's been fouled inside the box, including one where he was just shoved over. Just shoved over. 2 hands on the back. In the back, it's not a penalty because he's no getting to the ball. Well, Joe Hart's no getting to this either, but aye, it's picking and choosing. This is what happens when you give them VAR. The referee has given the goal, then gets told to go and check it and change it. If it's a clear and obvious mistake, fair enough, but is it clear and obvious? If he's letting shoves go, if he doesn't think shoves are shoves, if that Sterling one's no a shove, if the one from Scales on Seema's no a shove, why is that one? It's just crap, but again, that's what the game's going to be dominated by this moment again, and it's just pointless, ladies and gentlemen. No matter what I say, I could ignore it and get told for this. I talk about it fairly, in my personal opinion, I'll get crap for that. It's just one of these, ladies and gentlemen. If you're letting shoves go, if you're letting it go, give the goal in the game. You can't pick and choose and say, oh, well, it's actually went in, so I'll give a foul. It's just pish. But again, the goal definitely added something to the game, and Rangers really took ascendancy where I thought they would maybe go against it. And I think a lot of that was given because of what was happening with the referee. As again, Sterling was booked for this. You know what I mean? He was booked for that. Gave David an opportunity to put it in the mixer, but thankfully Celtic couldn't get anything for it. And then it became just slack possession for Celtic, pressure for Rangers, but then the real lack of quality was really shining in that aspect, as there was no really goal scoring opportunities. Raskin started taking the game over in the middle of the park. Him and Mandy ran their heart and soul into this game. They gave everything. They were giving it to the right players, sliding in Seema, who's kicking into the ground and going into the hand. They were getting it outside, Ridvan hitting a cross in to Seema, soft idah in there. We just didn't have that extra quality. Despite how many set piece we fired into the money after money after money after money, knowing the right position or named the gambling at the back post, nay attacking instinct, and it just became frustration. But honestly, it felt like a goal was coming. Despite everything I'm saying, you could only really see Rangers winning this game for about the 72nd minute onwards. But again, this Rangers team finds ways to shock you and let you down in every aspect, and the way we did, troops, is honestly incredible. Now, the substitutions I want to look at here, I want to look at it from every single aspect, right? Because I think Scott Wright is going to get slaughtered, and rightly so. It's dreadful for Scott Wright. It's really dreadful. His first touch is like trapping cement. It's absolutely horrendous, troops. Really, really is. Bounces off him. But then, look back at the subs. You've got Scott Wright, who's just done that. Is he busting a gut to make up for his mistake just being on 10 minutes? No. He doesn't. Rabbi Matondo, who actually looked bright when he first came on with a great run, then he looked knackered. He made one run. Is he as fit as me? I can make one run in my big old age, and then I'm done in these charity matches and that I played. He made one good run. I'm saying, fancy that, but then he's scared to run at Johnson, who's knackered. Doesn't do that. And then he's watching Johnson just trot by him for this incident as well. The subs are all standing there watching it. By this point, Ross McCausland's on as well, by the way, for Sterling, which didn't help the game actually either. You're looking at McCausland, you're looking at Wright, and you're looking at Rabbi Matondo, and you're going, oh my God, it's all going wrong. But then you're watching the three of them just watch the game slowly jog back, and Raskin's on his own, sprinting his absolute arse off. And then the defence isn't stepping up, and again, it's shite for the Scott Wright, it's shite for the wingers no tracking back and helping their man or busting a gut in the last minute of a game, a cup final, putting everything actually in. They've only been on for 10 minutes, I'm not wanting any excuses. It's then shite for the defence for sitting off, and it's even shiter for Balogun, who actually drops back further, looking like Casemiro versus Arsenal. But then, no matter what or what route you want to go on with this and who you want to blame, like the usual suspects are Rabbi, the Wrights, McCausland, blah blah blah, you can do it all you want, but ladies and gentlemen, it's Jack Butland's fault, this one. It really, really is. And maybe that's a summary where we are. Our player of the season, the guy that's not made a mistake all season, is the one that finishes the season with the biggest blunder of all. Now, you could say he's unsighted or that, but every goalie gets taught to throw it out the way. You never ever save it back in to your 6-yard box. You never save it or palm it down in to the penalty area. And that's what he did. And it just shows you that even someone who's had the standards up to there, how cruel football can actually be, because you can look at your favourites, you can look at that if you want, but the guy who makes the mistake that loses us this cup final is your player of the season. And it was Idah that scored, and that's his second goal now versus Rangers. And I do find it interesting as well, because you look at him, he was signed on loan in January, right? We both needed to strengthen our sides. They weren't happy at that. We weren't happy about Fabio Silva. But it just shows you the difference in the recruitment and how it turns out. Idah's came to Celtic and scored big goals, won them games, scored all the penalties at Easter Road, the 2 penalties that they got. Won them game here, won them game. Scored that goal at Ibrox versus the running play. Scored the goal that won them the cup, whilst our expensive loan was Fabio Silva, who's done pretty much nothing in total. And again, everything is wrong. It needs to get better. They seem to always strike gold. We always just seem to hit coal, and it's an absolute pain in the jacksie. But it's another game of football, another way to lose, and it was game, set and match. There was nothing really towards the end. I mean, Celtic got in the corner a couple of times. Lundstrom came on and gave 4 fouls away and helped Celtic on in that aspect. I'm just running about. He's just running about like a cart horse. Again, I can't be bothered with it. But aye, you could question this, you could question that, you could question that, but it's just mere of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, winners will find ways to win, losers find ways to lose, and unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, for the majority of the squad, no matter what they gave the day, it's just built in to them now, and they found a new heartbreaking way to affect all of our fan bases. But aye, it was a tight one, ladies and gentlemen. Could have went either way, but that's the story of every old firm. But it doesn't matter. Celtic are winning them. They didn't care if it's 1 goal. They didn't care if they were the better team in the centre. They didn't care about that. Who wins the games? Seems to be Celtic, ladies and gentlemen, and that's something that Clement's really going to need to sink his teeth into next summer, especially as he rebuilds. And it'll be interesting out of the 18 who started the day in terms of played in the game of football and was available for the bench, how many will actually be here next season. For me, the number can't be high, or I can see a familiar feelings actually happening. But aye, ladies and gentlemen, it's another game of football that ends with a loss in terms of an old firm. It's another game of football that ends with a goal chopped off from Var'D against actual Celtic. And it's another game of football where we have lost a player in each half. And taking a step back and looking at this entire season, that's probably the story of the season right there. Just no good enough in the big moments, just no got that enough quality. And that's it, the curtain comes down on another season. It's a dirty double for Celtic, where it really could and probably should have been in our favour. But that's it in terms of the season. Thank you so much for everyone who stayed tuned and supported the season. We've actually just had our best ever year in terms of numbers, followers, likes, comments and everything like that. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in. We're going to be doing some interesting things during the summer. I've got a couple of things planned with some actual real players, some in-real content, some daft stuff you can laugh at over the summer. Try to entertain you that way. We'll have a wee bit of Euros content if you want that as well in the comment section. You can let me know, and aye, we'll do it all again next season. Let's prepare prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That sounds about right. But until next time, whenever I see you, if it's not until next season, I'll be CJ92. Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and bye-bye.